what A2A at its core is allowing one agent to send a message to another agent in English, in human language, asking it to go and do something. So one of the really interesting aspects of agents is that they essentially take input as and they then try and go and compute and figure out what you really want.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AI SEO Insider podcast. I'm Chris Rolfe, an AI SEO and GEO expert. I'm also the founder of Boulder SEO Marketing, a boutique AI SEO agency here in beautiful Boulder and Denver, Colorado. This podcast cuts through the AI hype and features people getting real results. If you're a marketing professional, business owner, SEO expert, or agency owner trying to figure out how AI fits into your strategy, you're in the right place. My guest and I talk about implementations, results, and practical tactics you can use actually immediately. Today, we're diving into something that most people haven't even heard of yet, but I'm convinced that it's going to fundamentally change how businesses get discovered online. We're talking about Google's Agent-to-Agent protocol, or A2A, and how it connects to Anthropic's Model Context Protocol, MCP. All right. Russ Jeffrey is the Director of Strategic Integrations at Duda, the website building platform that powers over 1 million sites. Duda's practically neighbors with us here in Colorado. I think your office is about 5 minutes from where I'm sitting right now,
Yeah.
Russ. And I had the chance to meet with Itai, the
Great.
CEO of Duda, and that's how we connected. So Duda, if my research is right, recently launched their own MCP server, making
That's right.
them one of the first website platforms to give AI assistants direct access to website tools. That's not theoretical, that's production ready. And Russ is the guy who can explain why that matters for anyone trying to stay visible in an AI-driven world. Russ Jeffrey, welcome to the AI SEO Insider podcast. Before we get into the technical stuff, tell us a bit about your journey. 15 years,
Yeah.
I believe, in AI and automation is a long time.
Yeah.
What were you doing before most people even knew this space existed?
Well, thanks, Chris. Excited to be here and excited to dive into our topics today. Yeah, like I run our basically integrations and kind of like product strategy here at Duda, right? Which roughly means I'm looking at what's going on in the market, what's going on in the space, who are we integrating with and why, how does that, reflect on Duda's core strategy and kind of move forward. And obviously, anything in the past 4 years has been AI focused for nearly everybody. And so, really defining how we're taking this basically shift in technology and applying it to our product and our move forward. And I think for us, we're in an interesting place just because it affects multiple areas of our product, right? Our customers are agencies and web professionals. And so as like AI is impacting discoverability, SEO is changing rapidly. I mean, you talk about it all the time, Chris, but also it changes our product, how our customers leverage, like AI as part of Duda and help our customers do more faster, right? Write more content, generate pages, do a lot of the kind of automation that AI can apply to us. And so it's where I've kind of worked is really how does that intersection all apply to itself? Yeah.
Awesome. And then, hey, by the way, I just got off a sales call with a company. They're using Duda, and we have the small web design team. We have not yet had the chance to really work with Duda, the
Mhm.
platform. So I'm excited. I hope they're going to sign up with us. It would include, a refresh of what
Great.
they did. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward for us to get more knowledge with the Duda platform.
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to include a link to all the information that we're sharing here below in the description field of the YouTube video. So if you're interested in Duda, definitely check them out. All right. So, Russ, when you first heard about Google's agent to agent protocol, what clicked for you that made you realize this was going to be a huge deal?
What clicked for me was there's several aspects to it, but what really clicked to me was that it's different ways for tools to talk to each other, and they talk to each other in English. So, one of the really interesting aspects of agents is that they essentially take input as human English language, and they then try and go and, compute and figure out what you really want. And then they give back to you, cool, we think we did these things, or did this research, or we give you this result, or whatever it might be. And what A2A at its core is allowing one agent to send a message to another agent in English, in human language, asking it to go and do something. So it becomes just this very kind of like back and forth communication that humans can actually read very easily between them. And this is kind of, I think, one of the major shifts as compared to previously when he talks about integrations. It was what API is talking to what, and how does that fit into this other thing, and how are they going to combine to do this next thing, and how do you write the code to do all of that. With A to A, it becomes a lot more intuitive to a lot more people very quickly, because it's just an agent asking, it's another, you can think of it like a person, it's another person asking another person to go and do something, right? And so for me, when I first heard of A2A, it was like, oh, that makes total sense that someone would say, okay, these agents can go and talk to each other and communicate back and forth to get something done on behalf of someone else. And so, when it really builds upon a lot of the existing infrastructure. It builds upon MCP, Model Context Protocol, which you mentioned in our introduction.
Yep.
And it's just kind of like the back and forth communication between these agents going forward.
Okay. And it's just like if a lot of people they probably never had heard of A2A or agent to
Yes.
agent protocol. Like if you're a business owner or a marketer, like why should they care about it right now when adoption is still minimal?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question, right? I think the first thing, this gets a little technical, but I'm going to try and unjargon it as
Yeah.
much as possible. I think the first step in understanding A to A is you actually need to take a step back and understand a little bit about how agents work. So, agents today, the idea behind an agent is like it's a little chat interface, something I can ask it to go and do something, and it completes that for me. And so this is really kind of one of the core things. It's if you ask like ChatGPT today, they can go out and do some things for you. They can write a little bit of like a UI or an interface for you. They can go and search the web for you and do deep research and try and discover information. They can go and query now out to Expedia or some of these like online flight tools to try and find relevant flights for you. They're going out and trying to do and research these things on your behalf. And so that first step of understanding, great, there's an agent that does this thing. So in the future, a lot of us might have either plugged into ChatGPT or plugged into Gemini or plugged into one of these AI models. You'll have your tools plugged into it. Maybe you're connecting HubSpot and asking HubSpot to go and do these things, and the agent just goes off and does those things, and it'll go directly to HubSpot and create an email campaign, or whatever you're asking it to go in and do. And then from there, what A2A or agent to agent enables is it's more of like to say, okay, an agent can then go and say, I want to go and talk to either maybe it's the HubSpot agent to go and do this thing, or maybe it's going to the Duda agent that we might have, or it's going to a different agent and saying, hey, what are the things that you have? What can we do with you? And then, hey, let's ask you to go in and do those things with A2A. And so I guess the reason this is important is that it's going to allow your ChatGPT or your agent to discover other agents and then recommend things that you might want to do with them and give them an idea of what you can do with those other agents directly. So A2A is just facilitating those communications between those agents. And you can look at it in a way of like, there's a lot of B2B work going on here of like one business is asking another business to do those things. But there's also a vast number of like consumer use cases out there saying, what are those things that these tools can go off and do for me and research. Maybe it's just getting information. Maybe it's doing some online shopping for you. One of the core use cases for agents in general is going to be a shopping agent. Let me go and search across all of Amazon or all of Shopify or all of these online e-commerce platforms, and I'm going to go and find you the best products. If you're interested in it, I'm going to add it to cart and allow you to check out very quickly and go and do it. And agents can do a lot of these things on your behalf. They can discover, recommend, and then actually take action on those items. Yep.
That was an awesome answer to my question. Do you remember when Google started to push, your website needs to be mobile friendly?
Mhm.
They made a
Very
big
well.
deal, right? We're going to give you X amount of time so that your, website can be mobile friendly. And then the next thing was like, and now your website needs to be secure. So you need to move to HTTPS, right? I think a lot of people miss the boat. Like they didn't see the importance of like when Google pushes something like that. I can already see how Google starts to talk about A2A.
Mhm.
What do you think? When is this actually going to kick in? When are people going to get serious about this?
Yeah, this space is changing rapidly, so
Yeah.
you have to take any guess that we give with a grain of salt. I think my guess is sometime in mid 2026, right? I think it's not
Okay.
too far off, right?
Yeah.
Um, and one of the areas where if you want to watch it a little bit more closely is to look at some of the computer use that's going on. So Google has a project, they call it Project Mariner.
Yeah.
If you look at ChatGPT, they have what they call as like computer use. Claude has their own, where these AI agents go and look and act like a user. They crawl a website, they load the UI, and then based on that UI, they're trying to get the agents to take action there. And this is like, the first step of trying to emulate like what real users would do on a website. And the reality is those things don't work too well today. The error rate is very high, they miss things. Once you get deeper and deeper and deeper, the agents do less and less well at going deeper, into individual websites and accessing them. So, assuming that we start to get real adoption on top of websites for MCP and also this A2A protocol, they're very much in tandem. You will start to see these agents kind of like maybe augmenting that information to say, okay, I can crawl the website and understand the website. So I'm going to like see the content on the website. I'm then going to see these more technical things that the website exposes to me. And I can make decisions on what the user was asking to get done and see if I can either complete that with, an MCP or if I need to go and use the computer to go and take action on this. And so what essentially these agents are going to have multiple ways of trying to accomplish a goal that you're asking it to do. And all of that is going to need to be optimized by folks that have websites in some way. So either like the agency that they hire or they're needing to do it themselves of how looking at an agent as a new user of a website itself as its own user experience, what's the agent experience on top of a website itself, and how does the agent really understand what the context is of the website, how it can take action on things, and what those next steps are. And I think what I'm talking about is a little, it's not quite there yet, and there's like a lot still coming in that area, but that's me looking at kind of like the tools that are in use today and how they're going to combine in the future. Yeah.
Awesome. So you nearly spoke at our last AI, SEO, and GEO online summit. I
Yeah.
would love for you to join us at a future summit. We're
Sure.
doing this every 3 months or so.
Happy
I'm
to.
sure the topic of MCP server optimization is going to come up, right?
Yeah.
My team and I were already preparing for it. Anything you want to share about MCP server optimization? Like, what else should we know about it at this point?
Yeah, one of the things that's very easy to do is to overload MCP. And what that means is like I'm providing way too many options for things that can happen on my website, right? Of like, if I let's just say I have a website for a cleaning service, and like there's several things that you can do through MCP on there. You might be able to discover content on the website and read information. You might be able to get a quote about what that cleaning looks like. You might be able to book an appointment. You might be able to make a payment. There's a lot of different things that you could do on top of that website. And it would be very easy to say, hey, let me get information about service A, right? Your basic cleaning. Let me get information about service B, which is your deep cleaning, or C, which is your move out cleaning, and expose way too many things into an MCP server. And so, what a lot of people are trying to do is to simplify what the total tools that MCP has access to. And it's really an art today of understanding, okay, cool. How is an AI agent going to read the MCP? And then how do you synthesize like the 3 to 7 things that you really want to get done on top of this, either a website or service or integration that MCP kind of supports? And how do you synthesize that into a few summarized things? It's very easy to put way too many options in there. And I don't know if you guys use LLMs yourselves too much, but if you've gone really deep into a conversation with an LLM, you've likely seen that the quality degrades as you get really, really deep, as you get like into your 10, 15, 20th, back and forth in conversation. It starts to forget things that may have happened in the past. The answers might, start to make less sense. It gets kind of confused. MCP is very similar to that. If you do way too much up front, then it can get confused, especially as it starts to get used more. So being able to provide short, concise options in your MCP server is absolute like optimization that can be done. And like this is a lot of stuff that like a lot of people aren't getting into yet, but I think this will be more and more common going into next year as we start talking about like agent optimization, right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm betting my business on being able to help clients optimize for A2A and obviously MCP optimization. But
Yeah.
from your perspective at Duda, building these systems, what should SEO professionals and marketers be thinking about now to prepare? You already shared some tips. Anything else that we need to think about? And obviously, this topic is a little bit over my head right now, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. I think the first thing is it's starting with the basics of like good geo optimization, right? Um, which, in my opinion, looks like making sure that all of the content that kind of supports your website is clear and concise and kind of like accurate, right? I think what we know about these agents today is they prefer clear, actionable statements. They prefer facts and citations over things that are a little bit more vague. They prefer actionable words and kind of like focus over things that are not really specific. And they want to be able to pull out, snippets and chunks out of your website and use that as context. And these agents are going to read your website and try and understand it. So if you have similar chunks and content that they can easily understand the context about that business, what they do, how they work, what services they offer, what's the data and value behind getting those. I still think this is like the first step of
Yeah.
doing a lot of that well, which is a lot of kind of the core geo work that you see a lot of SEOs and marketing professionals going through today is how do I think about this as an agent reading this and giving them something to cite or some blurb or block or, whatever it might be to get into that, right? I'm curious, like, Chris, I assume you're doing a lot of these type of things right now as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So and actually that was leading me to my next question.
Yeah.
So I would say we shifted from being an SEO agency to being an AI SEO
Mhm.
agency, and content marketing is most of what we do
Yeah.
now. And two of the most important things there, we're trying to build up a website's domain authority.
Yes.
That the higher that number, the better. And the person associated with writing and publishing the content on the website, their EEAT score:
Yes.
experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Those are
Yes.
two things, right? That anybody can use this new technology,
Yes.
large language model to create content, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, the two things that these AI tools are looking for before they surface content at the very top, they have to make sure it's published by somebody who has authority in this space. So, sorry, a long question or statement before I ask my question.
Yeah.
So I think people can not only just rely on these new technologies and just using LLMs to crank out content, right? You have to do off digital stuff. Like I just got an invitation to speak at a conference in Germany in April. Guess what? This is an amazing opportunity for us to do EEAT building, domain authority building, by doing boring stuff like press releases, just
Yeah.
a very basic stuff, right? So you mentioned websites will need to serve both bots and humans. How do we navigate that trade-off as it gets messy? Is that what I just explained? Is that what we need to do? What's your opinion on what I just alluded to?
It's certainly hard. It's there are certainly tensions in the trade-off between bots and humans, right?
Yeah.
You hope in an ideal world that there are not, and if you listen to the Google folks, they espouse that, hey, you want to do this EEAT activity, and hopefully in the long term they're aligned. But there definitely are things that you can do to optimize just for these bots today and show up. And um, I think a lot of that can just be directly around like the language that you're using in some of these like authoritative responses, which, I've seen a few studies out there that look at how LLMs like process responses, and they're going to cite you more frequently in their responses when you have things like citations and facts and data associated with what you're presenting, when you have like authoritative words and like sentences in there, when you do those things. And sometimes that's not natural on a website, and sometimes that's not like a natural way to communicate with other humans, but it is something that these bots and AI tools, look at of like, oh, this is it's more concise, and it fits my prior narratives and how I was trained a little bit more, and it's like something that I think my trainers would like me to say. And so there definitely is a little bit, I think, of tension there of like optimizing for bots and optimizing for humans. I still think like humans are still what you want to optimize for today. I think those are I think they're more valuable on top of your website than a bot is. I don't think the metrics are there yet in terms of there's more bot crawls happening and more searches happening outside of your website than come there. That might change in the future, I still think, but I think right now you still want to try and like optimize for humans the most, and you hope the bots kind of come around to your way of seeing things.
Yeah.
But I think it definitely is a tension in the space right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just think about how long it usually takes people to get comfortable with, at the beginning, putting your credit card information
Yes.
online, right? Now
Yes.
you're supposed to give an AI agent all your personal information, including your credit card, so that they can do things on your behalf. I
Yeah.
think, I agree. I'm not sure exactly how long this will take. I think it'll take a little bit of time. So it's probably going to be a slower process, right? So, someone watching this wants to future-proof their website for the agentic AI era. What are three things they should be doing today, even before this whole craziness goes mainstream?
Yeah, I think 3 things, like, one is, like, just make sure these bots can access your content. There's a lot of tools out there that are now blocking these bots by default, right? If you're
Yeah.
using Cloudflare, like, they're gonna be blocking a lot of the AI crawlers by default. It's their default platform policy.
Uh,
So, this is just purely technical of, like, can the bots crawl your site? Can they access it? That's it's straightforward from a technical perspective, but it's also, the key number one stepping stone to being like, am I going to be there? Can they understand it? I think number two is trim the fat on your website, which is to say you want to make sure that the content that is there is descriptive, helpful, it's, authoritative. Then you can start applying, kind of that EEAT type of principles on top of the content of your website. You don't want to have like vague pages that are just images. You need to have text content that's on there. You need to make sure that, anything that's on your website is providing value to both the users that visit it, but also the bots that are there. What are they going to see if they crawl specific pages? And then I think third is getting content out there in general that are both relevant for your customers and also relevant for these bots. I think a lot of these crawlers and bots, they're hungry for a lot of this content that can be created, and there's still, I think, a big opportunity out there for a lot of this. Chris, one of the things I think gets missed a lot recently is, I don't know if you read it closely, but a few months back, like ChatGPT or OpenAI put out this study of how people are using their products. And roughly like 25%, 20% of the usage is kind of the traditional like search usage of, I'm looking for some information, I'm looking for like how to do this thing, I'm looking for some type of like discovery of information. But one of the areas that these AI tools really expand is in this area of like practical guidance, where I'm asking something more nuanced than I would in a search engine in the past. It's okay, I have like, I have a newborn at home. And so I'm often asking like AI, like, what are like, I asked last night, like, what is the maximum temperature that I can heat a bottle to safely, right? And like, it came back with these like details of like, okay, you can't heat it over 120 degrees Fahrenheit because you start to destroy some of like the proteins in there. And you need to get like, so that's why you don't like microwave it. And it went into like explanations about that. And this is like very practical guidance, right? Like if I did that in the past on a search, I would have had to go to four different web pages, read the four different web pages, right? And like get that. But this like practical guidance is something that these AI tools are really giving me. And building and writing content for this new category of like practical advice is something that's kind of missing today online, right? Traditional SEOs didn't try and optimize for that. They may have done like lists and try and like list out all the factors that you might want to consider. They may have tried to do, the who, what, when, where, why type of articles and content that's out there, but they didn't have these like really concise, details of like, here's what you want, here's the temperatures that you need to keep your, breast milk within or under, whatever it might be, and kind of like give advice for. And so I think trying to think about what that broader opportunity might be with these AI searches, because what we're seeing is that like AI search is not replacing, or it's replacing traditional search and it's replacing the 10 blue links, but it's not reducing usage of these search tools, right? People are using this more and more and more. So there's just more types of content actually creating it out there in the world. And there's a lot more opportunities to influence these AI bots and tools generally across the web. And so I just see it as like it's a market expanding opportunity to get all this content out there. So that's a lot more than the three that you asked for, but I was trying to give some context. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I completely agree. So I think a lot of people are abusing these large language models. They just take the easy way out, right? So what we're
Yeah.
doing here at my AI SEO agency, we're actually creating virtual copies of our clients, the person associated with putting the content on their website. And we're actually gathering all the information that they already created, YouTube videos, blog posts, like high quality content. And then we do a lot of interviews with them, such as you and I are now talking. We're transcribing that. And we basically build a knowledge base, and we call it a virtual, I'd say virtual Chris, right? So on your point, Russ, I'm actually going to take that transcript of this podcast and I'll run it through virtual Chris, because it had a ton of information about other things that I've done, recent past. I guarantee you, I will be able to create a blog post for the chrisralph.com website about this topic that actually will have a realistic chance to rank at the top in Google for obviously the A2A related keywords that I'll be choosing.
Yeah. I mean, that's an awesome use case, right? Like,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
taking AI and it's, like, doing a lot of the work for you of you'd never do that 5 years ago if you couldn't transcribe reliably. That's a
Yeah.
really cool use case, yeah.
Yeah, so and it works absolutely. So looking ahead 26, can you share any cool developments that you guys are working on at Duda? Where's Duda going? It's a really cool platform. I can highly recommend to anybody. What are you guys up to? What can you share?
Yeah, so we have our own MCP out there today. It's kind of a technical thing to go and use it, of, like, plug it into Claude or ChatGPT or things like that. We're building our own agent, which is to say, in the Duda product, you can come and just type to, a chat window and ask it to do things for you. So this is things like update my website, publish a new blog post, present me some stats, what's happened in the last week for this client. Um, we're basically rolling this out actually right now, and it's kind of in like a early stages kind of beta, and we're going to continue to iterate on top of that with the hope that this just becomes like the agent for our customers to manage websites and ask them. So really evolving that and enhancing that. And there's a whole lot of like optimization that really goes into that. It's a big challenge to ask a AI tool to go and design a website, right? Design is a very human thing, and present it. And so there's a lot of work that we have to do behind the scenes. So that's one. Two is like we're continuing to help our customers on the basically the transition from, SEO to GEO or AEO, right? And this kind of like big shift that's happening online right now. And so we're building additional tools to help them in that journey. Be how are you discovered on these tools, and how are you visible, and how can we recommend changes that you should be making on top of a website to be more visible and be more present, and what are the best practices. So like trying to guide you along this journey and along this shift, we're really focusing on moving that along and providing kind of the marketing insights related to those things. And then, kind of the third is, what are the additional areas that we can help our customers just do more on top of websites. So we launched a booking tool recently. I mean, we're getting that out there. And so it's like, how does booking integrate with an agent, and how does that work? And how do we enhance those features and kind of like core things that are there in the platform, and improve that? So we have a lot of this activity that's ongoing, and it's kind of like it's a rollover theme of just how are we leveraging AI, both from like helping our customers be found online, but also to help them do more faster, more easily. So there's a lot in there.
Awesome. And as I mentioned earlier, my business partner, Daniel Burtz, and I had a chance to sit down with Itai Sedan, the CEO of
Cool.
Duda, right across the bridge here. So I'll
Yep.
be adding the link to that podcast
Cool.
right below in the description field of this YouTube video as well. This has been incredibly valuable, Russ. I feel like we've just scratched the surface of something that's going to reshape our entire industry. Where can people find you and Duda if they want to learn more about MCP, A2A, and all that fun stuff? And, yeah, where can people find you?
Yeah, look, you can find me, you can find Duda just online, search for Duda. We're the first thing that shows up. We're the website platform for agencies. You can find me on X and on LinkedIn. I'm, kind of getting a little bit more active there, and posting more. So if you search for Russ Jeffrey, you'll see me there as well. So
Yeah, and then we'll add links to your
great.
X account, LinkedIn, right below. Ross, it has been awesome. We're a little bit over time here, but 35 minutes of amazing content. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
Again, Chris Rolfe here, AI SEO expert. As always, stay safe and healthy. Thanks for your interest, and we'll catch you next time. Ross, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. This is great.
Thank you.